Thanks to those joining us live. This is D-Style Boxing and Calix right now. Thanks for joining us live and on the archive. Watching the archive, hit the like button. We are live on YouTube. We're live on X. I mean, we're live everywhere. You know what I mean? We are where we are. You know, it is what it is. Okay. Calix now has access to the StreamYard. After Elon Musk got access to the treasury, he found somehow he got access to the StreamYard in some way and gave the information to Calix.
Finally.
You know what I mean? I was like, how did you get in? Well, Elon Musk, finally, he messaged me. D-Style was working with the USID or whatever and keeping you out. I'm like, what?
I was getting concerned that, you were just nicely, politely firing me.
So, like, you got rid of him because he was a DI hire of HCP. Like, that's not what it is. What do y'all?
You didn't want the Latinxes around anymore.
But Calix made Latinx popular. That's why he had HCP X, and then he had this Calix in his name, Cali X Boxing, the whole nine, everything. Shout out to Andrew, Puerto Rican Rum. And all you guys, shout out to you, Calix. We witnessed history, Calix. It was so historic they did it on Sunday.
Oh,
you know what I mean? To spare Benavidez and Morrell the competition because they would have annihilated that guy because it was so historic, right? That they did it on Sunday, the day of worship. You know what I mean? That's when they did it, right? The GOAT. Clarissa Shields, B. Perkins, for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. It was history, right? So there you go. What are your thoughts on Clarissa Shields making her story? That's the other thing to say. It's her story, right? Making her story.
What are you doing?
Sunday. What are your thoughts?
No, what are you doing? It sounds like you're being sarcastic here. Do you not respect this? Do you not respect this accomplishment?
Tweet out.
She's right up there with Issac now. They were both undisputed. It's the same accomplishment, undisputed heavyweight championship. What are you doing? What are you implying here? What is this?
I'll tell you what. I put a tweet out. It's 100%. Look at Calix. I mean, this DEI hire stepping up his game. He's able to recognize sarcasm. Like, this is amazing. Like, he's stepping up his game, right? And now I'm detecting your sarcasm. Man, we're getting better at this. Like, you know what I mean? I'm just saying. Shout out to Andrew. I put a tweet out and I said, Shields made history. I should have put her story, but it's history. I said, give me a break. There's 17 women in the heavyweight division. 17. Half of them have losing records. A couple of them are batting 500. Like 1 or 2 just made a debut, not like that long. And I'm supposed to like just be like, because it happened on a Sunday. I'm supposed to because it was in her hometown.
I heard you threw a fight party in El Paso on Sunday. That's what I heard. I heard you had stuff fired 100%. Up on the grill. The funny thing about it is, all right, to be serious, there's 17 girls in the weight class.
What's serious about that?
Right.
17 women.
I think Michael Montero posted it. Shout out to him. The screen grab of it. And on BoxRec, the number 2 girl has 1.5 stars. Out of 5.
I mean, in fairness, remember that's more than the Dallas Cowboys.
Remember when Star Search had the 4 stars? BoxRec has the 5 stars, and the second place girl has 1.5 stars. So,
not a pretty division, right? Don't be a hater now, Calix. The Dallas Cowboys.
I didn't want to do this. See, I don't do stuff like this when I'm not around you. You bring this out of me. I didn't want to do this. I don't want any part of this, like this right here. None.
By the way, I like how some dudes responded to my thing and they're like, "Oh yeah, What about Amanda Serrano? And they start to shred Amanda Serrano's like resume. Let me guess, because I'm Hispanic, right? Like you got to attack Amanda Serrano, right? That's a go-to move. And then I saw somebody put, "Watch the original poster's not even going to mention it." Well, mention it. Like, oh yeah, it's such a great point. Checkmate. Oh my God, that was such a checkmate move. You ever play chess with somebody that they put you in check and they think it's like checkmate?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you take the queen with the pawn. And you're like, what are you talking about here? Like, oh, I don't want to play no more. He took my queen. Right? So that's what's going on right here. Right? I'm not against women equality.
That's what I'm hearing here. That's what I'm hearing.
All right. But I like how, like, in order to defend Clarissa Shields and to prove that I'm a misogynist, a lot of these dudes start to shred all the other women boxers and how shit their resume is, right? To defend Clarissa Shields. Right?
I think Carlos M. I forgot his name is now Carlos M.
Carlos M. Everybody.
Carlos M.
Right? Like, come on, Carlos M. Right? These style always baiting with the title, opening with women's boxing talk. I'm just trying to get this out of the way.
I noticed it too.
Now, just to get this out of the way really quick. Not that I want to get out of the way. It's important to talk about. But what do you make of dudes that are shitting on like Amanda Serrano's resume, all these other female fighters, to prove that I'm the misogynist? You misogynist going at women's boxing. That's the GOAT. What about Amanda? And they start to shred her resume. And then they start to shred other female boxers' resumes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're really showing me.
Yeah, and just to give my final thought on this, I am empathetic.
Yeah, Cal's so eager to end the women's boxing talk. Look at him.
Yeah. I am empathetic with females that don't have good competition, right? Because it is tough to get better and reach a fifth gear when you don't have it. I coach young girls in basketball, so I see it all the time. These really good, talented girls don't have the competition, and a lot of them we just compete against boys, right? To try to sharpen the blade a little bit. But in boxing, you can't really do that. And they don't have the competition. And when you have 17 people in a weight class, it's tough to, it's just tough. But what I would say, though, is Clarissa Shields needs to read the room and understand that these aren't the same accomplishments as a Usyk, as a what Canelo did at 168, as a NOA at 118, 122. These aren't similar. These are very much apples to oranges. So you rub the public the wrong way when anytime somebody brings up, oh, this is the first to do this, and then Clarissa Shields has to butt in and say, I did this too. You're not in this. When an NBA player breaks a record, a WNBA player doesn't step in and say, well, I actually did this too. It's two different sports, Clarissa. It's two different accomplishments. These are apples to oranges.
But we need to blame the media too, though.
The wrong way. You would get more sympathy in boxing fans if you just read the room a little bit.
Yeah, the thing is this. We have a situation, Calix, where a lot of members in the media enable this kind of behavior because I remember
putting her on pound for pound list with men.
Yeah, first of all, that's ridiculous. Okay, but also every time a man there's like, oh, this is the first fighter to become undisputed in 2 weight classes in the 4-belt era. Like, oh, Shields did it. Like, or Amanda Serrano did it. Or Katie Taylor did it. Like at the end of the day.
Anytime there's an annual award, like Usyk wins Fighter of the Year. Well, what about what Clarissa accomplished? What about this accomplished? It's 2 different awards. For the love of God, just give her the Female Fighter of the Year award.
Another thing I want to comment on, because for some reason, people can't just take a boxing talk and just keep it clean, right? And they have to take it to a racial component, right? I'm reading comments right now where people are saying, "Oh, look at this beaner." That's number one. Oh, my feelings are hurt. I'm gonna cry because you call me a beaner. You're so racist. Oh my god! Like, I don't care, dude. Right? Second, I'm seeing these dudes. Like, here's the thing. Oh yeah, they just don't want to see a black woman on top. Like, I just don't. You're taking it there. I didn't take it there. Right? So that's number one. But second, I got this dude who said this. You try to knock her for being leagues ahead of her competition when you should be blaming them. Tell them to step up. Keep the same energy for Jordan and Magic playing in bum-ass leagues with no comp. They're comparing. They're comparing Shields only having 17 women to compete with the competition Jordan and Magic had in the NBA, bro. Where is the Karl Malone of Clarissa Shields at the heavyweight division?
That's the girl she fought the other night. That's
Where's
Karl
Patrick
Malone.
Ewing?
She was 5-0 with 2 KOs. What are you doing? What are you doing? She's undefeated.
What are we doing here? And then to prove that I'm the racist, you bash two of the greatest male black athletes ever by saying they played with bums in order to defend Shield. This is so weird. Like, I don't know, man. There's a lot of conflicting information going on right now. But I responded saying, yeah, I'm going to blame the non-existent girls that don't exist to step up. Hey, girls that don't exist, step the fuck up. All right? Why can't you compete with the growth? What are we doing, bro? They're comparing her right now. She's making history. She's going to improve the women's league like Jordan did, and then she's going to inspire.
It's not history. It's her story.
Her story, whatever.
Get it right.
By the way, just for the record, I love Clarissa Shields as a boxer. Okay,
no, you don't.
Right?
No, you
yes,
don't.
I do. Yes, I do. All right. I thought her win was look. Her fight with Savannah Marshall. I love the fight. Okay, one of my favorite fights. That was a great fight. She beat Hannah Gabriels, but what did I say, Calix? Did I tell you to bet her to win by knockout in her last fight because that girl wasn't good?
Yeah, you did tell
me
that.
What do you mean? She couldn't even punch out of a paper bag. Well, this girl was not as durable as a paper bag. She was going to knock her out, right? And people are, oh my God, where's this power coming from? These girls just aren't as good. They're bigger, yes, but they're not as good. It's the weakest competition she's fought, bro. So it's what it is, but whatever, right? But you have to respect. I thought she was already undisputed. But the three belts that did not exist at heavyweight for women boxing, they just put them up in the line for this fight, for this defense, and then she became undisputed again. I don't know. The whole thing's stupid, right? By the way, side note, the WWF or some shit like that belt was also on the line. So, like, I don't know. There's another sanctioning body out there, like, just like sneaking themselves in for some reason.
Nice.
But
nice.
You know, hey, what are we gonna do? All right. But these style, you won't dare bring this up. You won't dare. You see what I gotta deal with? I gotta deal with people saying I won't dare bring it up. And then I got people like Carlos saying, why did I bring it up? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what to do. But like, why are you even debating this, bro? All right. But shout out to women's boxing. All right. Everyone knows I support women's boxing. Okay. But what they need to do, they need to consolidate middleweight, light heavyweight, all right, and heavyweight, and super middleweight, consolidate all those divisions and have those girls all fight each other is what I think what they need to do. Yeah. Right? They'll have at least 100 women competing at that point. You know what I mean? So there you go. All right. I'm giving everybody a solution. You know, that's all I'm doing. You know. But anyway, let this beaner move on. Let's move on. Right? Unbelievable. So, hey, do you think that they reported me to ICE because I was criticizing the GOAT?
And if they're giving out money, by the way, I do have D Styles' address. Just saying.
Whoa, that'll be revenge for locking them out of the account. But right. Like, I bet you it's only a matter of time for somebody says, "Oh, this is why they're deporting y'all." Like, why? Because I criticize Shields. What's going on? It's some crazy shit, bro. Oh man. Oh, look at this. So somebody from El Paso, and the girl she fought was trained in El Paso style. Like you know, it is what it is. But shout out to her, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I take it all back then. She trained in El Paso, so
Mm-hmm.
you know. Anyway, before we gotta get through it and finish the show before I shows up. Like, you know what I mean? Because they're gonna come after me. But anyway, where do we start? Hey, you know what? Speaking of hate and people just hating on people for no reason, right? First of all, did you not see that Isaac Cruz fight? That fight of the year candidate.
It was a good fight.
That back and forth fight. You know what I mean? Like I think it's fair to say Isaac Cruz is definitely making a name for himself and becoming basically like the action fighter of the era. You know what I mean? He won like the Aztec belt or some shit like that. Did you see that? You know what I mean? Or do you have a problem with beaners too? So this is why. I just got people that want to deport Isaac Cruz just because he wants to give people entertaining fights. You know? But people like to look down on him. I always see people looking down on Isaac Cruz.
Oh, they're looking down, all right.
And just hate on the dude for no reason, bro. Like this guy is an action fighter. He's exciting, right? He does everything we ask for. We want great, exciting fights. And look at that. Every time he always delivers, he never lets people down.
Look, if it goes back to packaging, and we'll talk about this several times during the show, I'm sure. Packaging, how you package a fighter matters, because if you package something a certain way and I order it on Amazon based off of what you marketed, and then it comes home to me and I open it up and it's not what you marketed, even if it's a good product, it's going to be a turnoff, right? So I've just asked this for a while because I do enjoy watching Issac Cruz fight. It's always enjoyable to watch a little guy with his T-Rex arms, throw a lot of punches, right? And take a lot of punches. That's always entertaining. So it's good. But what happens is over the years, okay, he fights Tank Davis and he loses a
great fight too, by the way.
And by the way, if you want a definition, a specific example of a cherry pick gone wrong, that was it, right? It was I'm gonna pick this little short guy that's all 4'11" of him, walking around like a real life pit bull, and I'm gonna knock him out, right?
We have to stop this hiatism, ladies and gentlemen.
But that's what Tank did, and then it ended up being a tougher fight. And credit to Issac Cruz for coming to fight and not being intimidated by Tank, and arguably winning the fight. So props to him for that. But then he parlayed that into, oh my God, this is the most feared fighter in the sport. Oh my God, he's top 5 lightweight. Oh my God, everybody's afraid of him. But then what happens is he turns down a Ryan Garcia fight. He turns down this fight. He turns down that fight. And he's acting like Ryan Garcia is beneath him. Like, why even ask me about Ryan Garcia? I'm above that, right? And we get a couple years of nothing. It's just nothing. And he's fighting a lower level competition on undercards instead of being a main event action fighter and then just taking the big fights. And then they're marketing him as this great fighter. Fellas, we need action fighters. We just want to see fighters take on the best competition and entertain.
Oh, you're adding caveats now.
It's good. And you can make a great career off of that and make a lot of money. All of these fighters, they're trying to reach, like really reach. These American boxing writers and all these fans are trying to reach for the next great fighter, and they're just not out there right now. So just create some action fighters and create some fights, and then maybe through that we'll create great fighters. Okay, but
yeah,
they're trying to artificially put these guys on this pedestal, and God knows Issac Cruz needs to be on a pedestal because he's 4'11", right? But the guy's walking around with this collar on at press conferences, acting like he's the next big guy. Just fight somebody, man.
The hate's a little.
So all I'm saying is it's good, man. Give him action, but market the guy correctly.
You're adding a little extra sauce to the hate, though. Like I mean, it's just kind of like he's 4'11".
Yeah, that's fine. D-Style, all I'm saying
he has the collar.
Continue to put this guy in fights like this, and then when they call for him to step up. If you lose, that's fine. I don't care if Issac has 7, 8 losses.
He stepped up more times than Zepeda.
He did, and that's exactly what I'm saying. It kills me. It kills me to see William Zepeda, the most entertaining fighter in the sport, an action star like Vin Diesel in the early 2000s. This guy's an action star, and they refuse to put. This guy's about to fight Tevin Farmer again. Why? Why is this happening? Can you please put the guy in a title fight? That's all you got to do. Put him in a title fight once a year, and then in a good fight once a year against top competition. And then the other fights, just have this guy fight 3 or 4 times per year and build him up. It kills me that you have a Mexican action star that's not landing with the market because you're managing and promoting him so poorly.
Let me, before I respond, I just want to give a shout out and acknowledge some people in the chat. Shout out to HLD in the building. Shout out to you, brother. Once again, shout out to Carlos M. Right. Emma Willis. All right. Shout out to Emma Willis. Mr. Boxing Guru right, in the building. El Pinchi OG Blaze and Daisy Sanchez. We got Los Tres Chingones, that's Cholo. He's trucking and listening in. We appreciate it. G Money. JC in the building. Shout out to you, brother, and everybody else. So look, Monte Carlo in the building as well. Look, here's my thing. Even though you're kind of criticizing both, I just noticed that when you go at Cruz, though, like there's this heightest kind of attitude where you're like, you have to mention his height. You just have to. You have to mention the collar, right? That's his identity. His collar. He's a pit bull, all right? And the other thing is, with Zepeda, you sound like you're pleading with him to live up to his potential. Please. With Cruz, you sound like you don't believe in him. Like you sound like you think he's a fraud. Is the sense I get. Right, but you believe in Zepeda. You see, that's a difference. Like I believe in Isaac Cruz. Isaac Cruz has actually been a world champion, Alex. Right? Isaac Cruz has actually, fought in big venues like the T-Mobile Arena with a roaring crowd. Right? While Zepeda's fighting in front of like 10 people on the Golden Boy card. Right? So that's all. I didn't need you to acknowledge that. Stop looking down. You and Liza looking down, by the way. Liza keeps looking down when he's just trying to be. He's just trying to be. He's just trying to be successful.
You're misconstruing this.
He's a family man.
If I'm using
have you seen his family? He's got a kid and a wife.
No, look, he is a family. He's good. He seems like a good dude. All I'm saying is package him correctly. And this is tough love, is all this is. It's tough love. Look, you're capable of way more. You're capable of way more, Issac, that you're not doing. And I enjoyed the fight Saturday night. It was a really good fight. Just continue. The problem with the D style is this dude might not pop back up till like October, November. And this is a guy that should be popping up again in May. I'm sure if you ask Issac, all 4'11" of him with his collar, walking around like a real life pit bull while he's hanging out with his family, beautiful family. I'm sure if you asked him, he'd rather be fighting. I'm sure if you ask him, he'd like to fight in May. He'd like to fight. So it's not Issac I'm aggravated with. It's the people around him. It's like, please free yourself from these people and get some fights. Please.
Alti says he believes in both. What's wrong with that, Calix? You have a problem believing in both?
No, I don't.
Or we have to pick. Like, is that the Calix way? We have to pick ruthless. Like this is evolution. Like, and it's fine. Like you know what I mean? Like Calix wants brothers to fight each other, bro.
I do.
You know what I mean? Like he wants like full like evolution. Like what do you call it? I forget there's a term for it. It would have sounded great if I would have remembered, but it's whatever. Let's go ahead.
Darwinism. You're looking for Darwinism. And look, and look, if you're in the same division, you need to fight each other. I don't care if you're blood brothers or best friends. You got to fight each other.
The battle of the fittest. You know what I mean? Like this is this. You know what I mean? It's what it is. But by the way, we touched on it last week for a little bit. What's with these fighters that are like, yeah, man, we were at a cookout together, so I would never fight my brother. But they're not actually brothers.
No.
Like if Canelo had a cookout with Benavidez and said, "No, I don't want to fight my brother because it's mi hermano," you know what I mean? Where like nobody would say, "Oh yeah, totally, that makes sense, Canelo." Like it just wouldn't happen. Like I don't know, like, but I have noticed like they're not the only ones though. Like I have seen other fighters say, "Oh, you know, he's my countryman," or he's my
Yeah.
brother. I'm close to him. Remember Parker said that he would never fight Fury because Fury let him sleep in his couch like for a couple days one time because he had nowhere to stay.
Baranchik with Lomachenko, Golovkin with Janabek. I think that's all soft energy, and I call it out
Damn.
across the board. What I noticed is people pick and choose when they want to call it out. So I think it's all soft.
Yeah, I mean, you let me sleep in the couch one time, so I'll never fight you.
Yeah,
Come on.
soft.
You know what I mean, Biggie slept in Tupac's couch one time. You know what I mean? And of course, Tupac.
And how'd that go?
And they still had a beef. You know, I'm just saying, like, you know what I mean? It is what it is, bro. You know, I don't like how that ended, but hey,
No, it didn't end well. Probably not the best example.
Tell us what's this elite, the shootouts and stuff. Like, I don't know what's going on here, but we're not gonna go there, Calix. Okay, like we don't want it to get that deep. All right. Okay. We didn't need the Klitschkos to order hits on each other, right? Like I'm saying, but what do you think of Vladimir Klitschko, by the way? Supposedly, there's rumors that he wants to come back and break the record. Nobody's asking for this, bro.
29-year-old Klitschko is boring. Just imagine how boring 49-year-old Klitschko would. Can you imagine that? How boring a 49-year-old Klitschko would be? Good Lord. Please don't do that.
He wants to break Foreman's record.
Yeah, well, no.
Wouldn't that be crazy though if he came back and like beat Usyk or something? Even if it was in a boring way. Let's say
that dude up. No.
But let's just say like a 49. How old is he like now? Like 49, 50?
Yeah.
Let's say a 50-year-old Klitschko comes back, just jabs, grabs, and he's just boring as shit, but he wins the fight. You wouldn't be impressed?
And then Andre Ward, you know what would happen? Andre Ward would see it and say, I gotta do the same thing. I gotta go Huggy Bear, Barney, I love you, you love me, somebody to death, and pick off a title just to say I did it.
By the way, shout out to Nando Llamas in the chat. I gotta give Carlos credit. I was very, very impressed the other day. He did a video and he gave a shout out to Nando, and he said Llamas, like not llamas, like he actually said the yeah. I was like, whoa, man, this dude
I wouldn't be able to roll. I still can't roll ours, but I'm getting there. That's part of the contract, by the way, for 2025. You didn't see it off air. We agreed to another year contract here at HCP for me. And part of the contract is I learned how to roll ours. So
100%. Shout out to the Shoe Shine and Remy. All right. HLD with a super chat. We'll move on topics after this. Can't lie. Miss you guys. The best boxing duel podcast in the YTBC. Just stay away from politicos. All right. Oh man, politics gets people get mad at you and shit. It is what it is, bro. All right. But look, Calix even works out while he does the show. Look, he's got the look at that. Look, you know what I mean?
Building those forearms is what I'm doing.
Forearms or wrists, all that stuff. Like you know what I mean? He knows what's up. But anyway, those things are great, by the way. If you have like a desk job or anything, great. So Dynamite Luis, how's it going? Let's talk about Benavidez. Let's rate his win. Right. I'm gonna be honest. I was impressed with the performance. I and the fight, by the way, things happened that I predicted, but they weren't like I can't even really take credit for it. Like, for example, like I predicted there'll be a knockdown, but was that really a knockdown? It's kind of like I don't know. I always look at
the fighter reaction because you see it from different angles. So two things: Benavidez didn't he didn't appeal it. Like he just got up and he accepted the count. His team never really appealed that it wasn't a knockdown. And then number two, they did go in between the 11th and 12th round to video replay. So and confirm that it was a knockdown. So we'll just go with that. That's all you can do.
Yeah, I mean, so that's that, but it's kind of like a side note. And I honestly felt like the early going, like the first 4 or 5 rounds were going to be decisively won by Morrell. And then I felt the middle rounds were going to kind of determine the fight. Is that where Benavidez was going to turn the tide, take control, and then control the later half of the fight? Or was Morrell going to weather that storm and remain in control? And none of those things happen. It's actually like the opposite. Like I feel like Benavidez was winning the early rounds, early going. Then he ran out of steam. And even with MVP Memo, it didn't seem to matter. Like he kind of like ran out of steam towards the end. He still had a lot, he still dished out a lot, but Morrell had his best moments, I believe, in the second half of the fight. And I thought it was going to be the opposite. So, but Benavidez, I do think he clearly won the fight.
How'd you score it? How'd you score it?
I had it like, I think I had like 117, 111, something like that.
I had it 115, 111. So you got to take away. So that would have been 8 rounds to 4, 1 lost to point, knockdown, 1 lost to point. And by the way, I didn't like that they took a point away from Morrell. Not that it mattered at the 11th round. Benavidez clearly threw after the bell, and Morrell was retaliating. So I just hate when they catch the retaliation and penalize the retaliation. You see it all through sports. That happens all through sports. They catch the retaliation instead of the initial infraction.
Nando left a comment. It wasn't a talent gap. It was an experience gap. Do you agree with that?
Here's what I'll say. Just to kind of break it down in general, I had a 115, 111. I gave 1, 5, 11, and 12 to Morrell. I thought that Morrell landed the 2 most impactful punches in the 11th with the knockdown, no knockdown, right? The slip or the flash knockdown. And then the 4th round, he landed a beautiful short right hand as Benavidez off the ropes as Benavidez was coming towards him in that trade. And Benavidez reacted to it well. I actually still thought he won that round and came back from but he was clearly buzzed there. So Benavidez showed a fighting spirit there that didn't surprise me at all. I knew it was there. If you would have told me before the fight, D-Style, that, and I agree with the betting odds. I thought that it could be a close fight, close to toss up. And I actually thought that, and you know this, we've talked about this in the past. I thought Morrell had some attributes that could give Benavidez some issues.
Yeah.
Some of them, he sits down on his punches. He's not your typical Cuban fighter who's going to run and fight off his back foot. He'll sit in the pocket. He'll sit on his punches. He'll stand his ground. He'll use some lateral movement. He's athletic. He's explosive, right? And I actually think, to sort of a rebuttal to Nando's comments, I actually think he's got good experience for a fighter with 12 fights. I didn't necessarily think it was an experience gap, as people would say. Maybe experience in a big fight. I don't know. But I thought Benavidez, I would grade it a B. I thought it was a good fight, not a great fight. I thought people got out of hand and started jumping the shark with some of their commentary Saturday night, because I watched the fight Monday. But I was following on Twitter Saturday night and Sunday some people's reactions. And I didn't see a great fight. I saw a good fight. It started off hot and then sort of trailed off towards the end. Some good ebbs and flows to it, but it never felt like Morrell Jr. was a threat to win this fight as the fight was going on, right? And I'm sure you felt the same way. It felt like a clear Benavidez fight.
Well, I mean,
drama. And then I thought that Benavidez, and I'll say some positives about this and some negatives because there's some clear trends here. I felt he tailed off again. And I'll just go back to what I was originally saying. If you would have told me before the fight that Morrell Jr. would outthrow Benavidez in 9 of 12 rounds, would outthrow him by about 100 punches overall, would be buzzed in the 4th round, would suffer a flash knockdown in the 11th round, well, I would have told you I think Morrell Jr. wins that fight. But guess what? Benavidez still clearly wins the fight. So based off of that data, what it tells me is there is more nuance to, and you said this, and I'm seeing some Benavidez super fans say this, right? Is there's more nuance to him. There's more layers to him. He's a more versatile fighter than you give him credit for. There is IQ there. There is what we talk about with Virgil Ortiz, right? Is he's not just a caveman pressure fighter. He's not getting caught coming in. Pause. He's getting caught when he's on the inside in the trades, and he likes those trades. He wants you. He'd prefer you to trade with him, right? So he forces you into his type of fight. So there's a method to his madness, and there's more layers to this guy than we're giving him credit for. If we look at this 4-fight run, right, and some would say it's tougher, some would say it's not as tough as people give him credit for, but he's clearly stepped up the past 4 fights, and he only has a 25% KO percentage. He's got 2 fights at 175, and he's got a 0% KO percentage. So some people would look at that and say, okay, the negative of that is he doesn't have stopping power. But the positive of that is, if you would have told me before this 4-fight run that he's going to fight these 4 guys and he's only going to have a 25% KO percentage in that run, I would have told you that guy's going to lose at least one of those fights. But yet he's 4-0 in those fights, and he clearly won all of those fights. So that tells me that there's more nuance to him, and I still see boxing writers sort of miss this. And they're famous for missing the point, right? But even some I agree with, I think, are missing the point. They're trying to make it to where this guy's pressure is too much for his opponents, and that's not what I'm seeing. I'm seeing 2 clear fights, and 3 out of the last 4, because the Plant fight, the same thing, where he tails off towards the end. His output in this fight was in the 30s in the 8th round, and he couldn't get out of the 40s in 9 through 12. So he clearly has some stamina issues, but he's figuring it out still and winning these fights still. So to me, the story isn't this guy's just this pressure fighter who's overwhelming these. I don't think that's the story here. The story is there's some nuance to this guy. That's the story. It's more nuanced than pressure. And
I like how you recognize the nuance in this guy, but not in Isaac Cruz. Isaac Cruz is short. Okay, you look down on him, but I don't want to make it about Isaac Cruz now. I know everyone in the chat's like, what? But here's what I'll say. Virtuoso, if Canelo does fight Jake Paul, Cali Damas should be given credit since he called it 5 months ago.
Oh, we got to talk about that, by the way. But I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose my train of thought here. Is the story to me is nuance, and he's a good action fighter. Once again, the boxing writers and the American boxing fans, I feel, are trying to reach, because that was sort of when I watched Benavidez the fight. I'm like, I like this. I like this. This is a good action fighter. And this is what I've been looking for. And he's building trust with me as a boxing fan, right? As he's fighting these fights, and I do believe he does want to fight the winner of Better BF Bivol. We'll see, though. We'll find out. And if he does do that, there's nothing to dislike at that point, right? So, but I feel like, once again, it's how you package fighters. And I feel like American boxing writers are so desperate for a great fighter, so desperate for an American face of boxing, that they're reaching and they're trying to write it into existence instead of just following the story as it goes along and just telling the truth and checking their biases, right? Because right now, what we have is a good action fighter. That's what he is. He's not, this wasn't a star-making performance. It wasn't a star in the making. It can't be, because like 27 people bought the pay-per-view, right? So not enough people are watching this for him to become a star. And that's, once again, a problem with the messaging and the marketing, is he's not a pay-per-view fighter yet. So you should be giving this away with the subscription. But they're trying to reach and say pound for pound fighter. And I don't see how that can be when he's fighting guys who are naturally smaller than him. And then future Hall of Famer and generational talent. And they're saying these things, and it's a good action fighter. It was a B level performance. I wouldn't call it A plus, but all of that is good enough for me, is what I'm saying. I think it's good enough for boxing fans in general. If you would just stop turning us off with this false marketing with these fighters, because you're trying to reach so bad with it. We need action fighters, and we need this guy to fight if not 2 times a year, 3 times per year. And that's going to be a problem because he balloons up and down in weight, right? And we need this guy to fight top competition out there, which he's starting to do. And all of this is good. But even though his output drops, even though I don't think he's as great of a pressure fighter as people give him credit for, I've seen better pressure fighters than Benavidez. I think the better pressure fighters are still getting stoppages here and finding these openings. There is nuance to his game, and there is vulnerability with David Benavidez, and that's good. That's what I'm attracted to. You know this. Two of my favorite fighters are Arturo Gatti and Miguel Cotto. They weren't the greatest fighters, but they had vulnerabilities to them that were relatable. Just as a normal boxing fan, you say, okay, although these guys are economical in spots, they're not overwhelming pressure fighters. You don't have to be that to be a great action star. You need to be vulnerable. You need to be in these traps and these tough spots that you can try to find your way out of. And Benavidez has that. Benavidez has those vulnerabilities where his mouth is wide open late in fights. And then there's another level to go up. Benavidez, Bivol, if he steps up, Opataya, Zerto, he's going to have to find another gear late in fights to beat these guys. But that's the attraction. That's the intrigue, right? That's the intrigue. It's not that he's this monster and he's overwhelming, because I don't see any of that. I think they're reaching. I see a vulnerable, nuanced fighter who's going to have trouble at the next level figuring things out. But what if he does, like Miguel Cotto? What if he does pull off this shocking upset like beating Sergio Martinez, right? Or something like that. So that's what I'm intrigued by.
I will say this, and I've been consistent about this. Benavidez is better than a lot of his detractors say, right? Mm-hmm. When people compared Benavidez to Margarito, I just say, you know what, that's ridiculous. Like, completely different style of fight. Not that Margarito wasn't effective at what he did, but what I'm saying
is, he's a really good fighter, Margarito.
No, he was, but he was easier to hit than Benavidez is. That I will say, right? In fact, Margarito's game, part of it was you're going to hit me and I'm going to hit you back, and you're not going to like it. That was part of his game, right? And that threw guys off. But you know what I mean? But in terms of Benavidez, like you said, I like the word, everyone knows nuance is one of my favorite words. You know what I mean? But I do believe he has more to his game than people think. He pointed out at the post-fight press conference, and I noticed it when I watched the fight. They kind of pull down, kind of punching the glove away to land that uppercut. That's a very old school move. I mean, I really like that a lot. And I think he has his own way of roughing up fighters, but it's clean at the same time. He's got really quick hands, and he is getting better and not squaring up as much. I mean, he just is. He is improving as a fighter. And I don't know how I would have felt watching it live, because I already knew the result by the time I watched it.
Yeah.
So I already knew he won.
It's different, right?
It is different. So, but I did notice there was some really good shots that Morrell landed that if I was watching live, I don't know how I would have felt in that moment, because Morrell does have the ability to turn a fight around with his power. I mean, this guy has pretty good power, in my opinion. So maybe those that watched it live, there was just maybe this feeling in the air, man, what if Morrell lands that big shot and turns it around? Yeah. I don't know. I would have to have somebody that watched it live. I already knew the result, right?
Were you surprised with Morrell's ability to take a shot, his chin? Because that was the big wild card for me.
I'm gonna say no, because what did we say going in? We don't know a lot about this guy, right? It was hard to know what to expect. You know what I mean?
He can take a punch.
But now we know he could take a punch. We know he could go full 12 at a high rate, and
he's tough. He's durable.
And the one thing that I do agree with Nando's assessment, that experience played a role in this, and I think Morrell will learn from it. I'm not saying that if Morrell had more experience, he'd win still, but
he said originally he's going up to 175 to chase Benavidez. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'd like to see him go down to 168. I think there's intriguing matchups down there that he can win after I watch this fight. He's durable, has a chin. He's in there with a tough puncher who can be overwhelming in spots with his pressure, and certainly was in the middle rounds, and he weathered that and won the championship rounds. I
100%.
mean, that's saying a lot, and I'd be intrigued by him versus Plan. I think he beats Berlanga and Mogia. I think I would love to see him against Christian and Billy. I think those are all good matchups for him at 168.
Ooh, man. And Billy might be a bit much right now, but we'll see. You know what I mean?
They're all flawed, man. And Billy's flawed too. They all have flaws.
But look, this is a fight I said is a fight he should do. And it's a fight people were calling for. It's a fight he did. So I'm going to give him props for his win. You know what I mean? So
Me too.
and
I really thought this, even before the fight was announced, I thought that this is a guy that could give him problems, stylistically. And I thought Morrell fought a good fight, and turns out I still had Benavidez winning by 4 points. I had him winning 8 rounds. Those trends are still there, right? And we talked about that. But with those negatives, with those red flags, to me, I find it more intriguing, Benavidez more intriguing than he would be if he was this monster. I find it more intriguing that he does have these vulnerabilities, and he still has such great attributes that a winner of Better BF Bivol fight is still intriguing to me. What if he's one of these guys that can consistent, because there are fighters like that, right? Timothy Bradley. Like most people, I was one of the people to pick him upset Marquez, but he was a clear underdog in that fight. Like Timothy Bradley had those attributes to where he fought better in certain fights than you expected.
Yeah.
We talked about Miguel Cotto against Sergio Martinez. I talk about Carl Froch being an underdog in 8 of his 12 fights and winning 10 of those 12 fights to end his career. Certain guys
in his career at Wembley, by the way, you got to say that, or he's going to get pissed off. At Wembley in front of 80,000 people.
But certain guys, they surprise you consistently, like consistently surprise you, and you become a fan of them when you didn't think that would happen at all. There's no way I would have thought he would be able to accomplish that. There's no way I thought over time I'd be a fan of that guy. Benavidez has attributes to pull that off.
No, for sure. So we'll see what happens moving forward. I know everyone's already kind of giving up on the idea, but I still want to see Benavidez versus Canelo.
I'd rather see Canelo, Benavidez, and Bud versus somebody else at 154, but that's obviously not what we're going to get. I'm just saying, like, being transparent about, you want to be transparent about what you like to see, myself included. I want to see the same thing. So,
by the way, I got corrected. Carl brought it 80,000 in Wembley, not 90,000, but not quite other, but still very, very impressive by Carl Froch. Calix almost forgot to mention that. I just want to put that out there. Okay. Should be interesting. Well, Morrell, there's a lot of options for him too, as you mentioned, and Benavidez versus Bivol or Beterbiev style wise, who does he match up better against?
Man, I think they're both tough matchups. Beterbiev can do everything Benavidez can do better, I feel. You talk about a pressure fighter, like a consistent throughout 12 rounds.
He's slower than Benavidez, but other than that, you're right.
Is he?
Yeah.
I don't know. It all depends to me on if Beterbiev is going to fall off a cliff, because he's still 40 years. What is he, 40, pushing 40? So how long can you do that for? I don't know, but when you look at that KO ratio, I just think he's so effective at what he does. But Bivol, I've said this for a long time. People have heard me say this since the Canelo fight. I think he's the most versatile fighter in the sport. I think the stats back that up. It actually surprised me that Beterbiev edged him out in that fight, and I expect Bivol to win the rematch. And I think that's a tough matchup for him as well. I fully expect Bivol, if they fight, to be very calm and be able to take advantage of some of those inconsistencies and weaknesses that are trends that we see in Benavidez.
That's for sure. That's for sure. By the way, Keith Thurman's back, Alex.
Oh yeah,
Keith
Australia,
Thurman
right?
is fighting Australia against Jarvis.
You didn't say that like an Australian.
Like it's back in Australia, mate. By the way, shout out to the Boxing Deep Dive representing. What do you think, mate? He's back in Australia. He's gonna be a fight?
This is
What do
like
you think?
this is like Malignaggi going to Italy late in his career. One of those things. I think it makes sense. Nobody's really interested in Thurman here in America, so why not try to go out there, reinvent yourself in fights that you could possibly win?
For sure.
You know, so I think it makes sense for him. He's got to do something. What else are you gonna do? Sit under a tree and play the flute and do yoga? Like what else are you gonna do?
He's fighting Jarvis from Iron Man.
So he's got to do
Maybe.
something. He's got to do something. Like why not?
Man, we'll see what happens. Everyone doesn't seem that intrigued about Keith Thurman being back, but we don't even know when the fight's gonna happen. So we'll see if it even happens.
I threw it out to Nadim over there on Twitter, and he said he didn't seem too intrigued by it. So there you go. And he's like the face of Australian boxing, so he wasn't intrigued by it. So,
well, it is what it is. So, let's talk about Canelo. You're one of those people who want to see the Jake Paul fight, huh? Like you really want to see the Jake Paul fight happen?
Don't put that on me.
Like you really want to own it. Like what you want to see? Jake? Are you gonna buy it? Shout out to Boxing Guru. He can't wait to release his line of Mexicans for Paul T-shirts.
Oh, believe me, he's gonna eat it up if they.
He's gonna make some San Pablo T-shirts, for Mexicans for San Pablo, right? And he's gonna be selling those shirts. But I know there's some business reasons why he wants to fight. But why do you want to fight?
I don't want to fight. What is this? I didn't say I wanted. I just predicted that the fight would happen.
You started it since last year, and everybody's saying, "Oh, we're going to give him props and props to Calix that the fight happens."
Can I
now you don't want to own up to it?
Can I pitch to you why I've been predicting this fight and why I think the stars are aligning to where this fight is very possible? Can I pitch to you why the atmosphere is the way it is, to where there's a vacuum for this fight currently? Sure. Okay, so let me pitch it to you. Canelo's fighting Terrence Crawford in September, and it's likely at Allegiant Stadium in Vegas. So we already know that part. That's going to happen. So Canelo's going to want to fight in May, 1, because he wants to keep that date, 2, because he wants to stay sharp and busy. And so Canelo wants to fight. The issue with that is I think that's going to be a PBC fight. So 2 angles there. Number 1, I'm sure this fight in September is going to be a Turkey Al-Sheikh Saudi sponsored card. And who's going to be involved in that? Who's not? I don't know. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of hands in that, but they're putting on the fight. What we know about Turkey Al-Sheikh, because this happened to Tim Tszyu, right, is he doesn't want anything tough before that. He's not going to want anything to ruin that fight. He told Tim Tszyu and his team, don't fight this fight. And Tim Tszyu said, we're going to fight the fight. And whether that's smart or not, people can do whatever they want with that. But what I'm saying is Turkey Al-Sheikh does not want a fight in May that's going to run the September fight. PBC does not want a William Skull type fight. They don't want a Christian and Billy type fight. Why? Because they need to make money. The PBC is broke. They need to make money. They need to make a big margin off of this May fight. So you can't just put a tune-up fight in May on pay-per-view. We know that doesn't work. I don't believe the Berlanga numbers. I think the pay-per-view numbers have been trailing off, and I think
we're not going to do that. Those numbers are legit. I don't know.
Okay, but I think the evidence of the numbers trailing off is that this fight is sort of being lingered out there. And you don't think the fight's going to happen, and that's fair. And it may not. It may not happen. All I'm saying is there's some negotiations going on behind the scenes about this May fight. And I think PBC is pushing back a little bit and saying we need a bigger fight than William Skull. I know you want to be 2-time undisputed. We need a bigger William Skull. Nobody knows who he is. Nobody knows who Christian and Billy is outside of Montreal. You got to give us something here on the way out. So I think that's what's going on here. And the best, and people are not going to like to hear this. And by the way, I don't want this. I'm not endorsing this. I'm not advocating for it. The best way to do this business-wise.
He's not advocating for it, but he's explaining why it needs to happen.
To where you check all of the boxes, D-Style, if you look at this from a manager's, power broker, greasy way of looking at it, is you have him fight Jake Paul in a huge event in May, make a huge margin for the PBC. Turkey Al-Sheikh is happy. Why? Because, it's not a threat to Canelo. It's going to be an easy fight for him. And number two, it's going to further build and market the fight for September against Bud Crawford. It's one of those weird scenarios in which the tune-up is much bigger than the actual event. For the casuals, the front end is what they're worried about. The casuals are going to eat Canelo versus Jake Paul up. Right? They're going to love that. What they want is on the front end. What the boxing fans want is on the back end. So it's sort of the best of both worlds for this. One of these weird scenarios where the tune-up is going to be much bigger, because what people need to realize, D-Style, and once again, I'm not going to be liked for saying this from certain people, is Bud Crawford's just not a draw. He's not. Canelo versus Bud, D-Style.
Look, we're gonna go back and forth a little bit here. So, but really quick, get this super chat, and I'll be right back.
The Canelo retirement tour is beginning. Jake Paul fight happening, and I think the quicker. Shout out to you, Chauncey Pearls. When people accept that, this is more tolerable, and they'll stop getting mad at me for saying it. This is a retirement tour. That's what it is. This is going to be, if he does fight Jake Paul, big if, but if it does happen, this is going to be the biggest year financially for Canelo Alvarez in his career. It is. It's going to be one of those weird years where he starts to fall down pound for pound list. Boxing fans hardcores are going to get mad at him and push back, but the casuals are going to eat this alive.
Alex, stop trying to gaslight us that you didn't want this fight. Like, you've been pushing, advocating for this fight.
I'm not.
Now you're gaslighting us. Okay, you're gaslighting or dry snitching, as HLE's calling it, right? Wanting this fight, like you want this fight. Like you're gonna do a cookout for this fight, aren't you? You're gonna invite all your friends. By the way,
we need to be very careful with the reporting, because Dan Raphael is out there reporting it this morning that these are negotiations for May, but we need to be careful because people get burnt so many times on the possible Canelo opponent, right? And then it ends up not being that, right? There's a handful of possible Canelo opponents, and then people start to overreact to it. So you're right. This fight, you don't think this fight's going to happen at all, and it may not. He might
don't. A lot of things don't make sense with it. But really quick, Remy Skull asking for over $8 million for the belt. First of all, look, whether I like it or not, aside, of course it's a big event, right? Canelo versus Jake Paul would be. It's beyond boxing. It's beyond boxing. It's beyond sports. It'll be cultural. Like it will be like 7-year-old kids are gonna be watching the fight. Okay, like it's just what it is, right? My mom will probably be watching that fight.
Look, style people aren't gonna want to hear this, but it's the biggest fight that can be made in boxing.
We don't not in boxing. That's where you're wrong. It's not the biggest fight in boxing, right? It's just that it'll attract crowds outside of boxing, right? But not in the sport. It's not bigger, right? I just want to say that, but I don't want to see that fight.
Neither do I. That
is a cash grab. That is also very embarrassing for the sport.
You think so?
Yes.
I think that's where people get
No, this is embarrassing.
I don't think so.
We're not going to put dudes that don't belong in the NBA finals. This wouldn't happen in any other sport. This is not an exhibition. If they present it as an exhibition, doing it for charity, something that's different, but that's not what they're doing. Right? And I don't want to hear anybody tell me, oh, what was your energy for Mayweather McGregor? Because I shit on that fight. I took a big dump on that fight. Oh, what about Ngannou? I took a dump on that fight too.
I did too, but it's two different. We're talking about two different things. We both took dumps on when we'll take a dump on Canelo, Jake Paul, but it's a different thing. It's embarrassing. Is it really embarrassing? Was it really embarrassing for boxing?
Well, let me get these super chats before I forget them. Skull asking for $8 million for the belts, says Remy. And has Canelo confirmed the Paul fight rumor? Well, Reynoso saying no. Reynoso saying they're not doing that fight.
Yep.
According to reports, anyway. Right? But yes, you don't think it's embarrassing?
No, I think the evidence of it is the casual audience continues to eat it up. I think what's embarrassing to boxing is boxing. I think what's embarrassing to boxing is fighters fighting once per year. I think what's embarrassing to boxing is boxing writers not calling this stuff out. I think what's embarrassing to boxing is a fighter from UK and a fighter from Australia fighting in Oklahoma. I think what's embarrassing to boxing is promoters and managers taking the highest site fee and putting fights that don't belong in Indian reservations at Indian reservations. I think what's embarrassing to boxing is boxing and how boxing behaves within boxing.
Calix, I'm getting people
things we're talking about.
Canelo, I have people telling me things like, is boxing that bad that an influencer is going to be headlining a big event with Canelo?
And your answer to that should be yes. It is.
No, because talent-wise, it's not that bad. Like, I understand. Yeah. I agree with everything you said, right? Well, yeah. Like, would Jake Paul be in the top 10 as super middleweight?
No.
Would it be in the top 20?
No.
Would it be in the top 30?
Probably not. No.
So how? Like, why is Canelo fighting him then? Merit-wise,
no,
what's the merit?
Canelo's fighting him because there are no other names to fight.
I get that there are no other names to fight, but he doesn't need the names. He's Canelo, right? It's still a sport. If he's retired, then vacate the belts and just do a retirement tour then. You could still do the fight with Terence Crawford, but you don't need to have the belts around.
But that's what Chauncey's telling you. And
we should let Benavidez and Morrell fight for those belts then, if this is what we're doing.
I agree with you, but it's one and the same. That's what I'm telling you is the sanctioning bodies. They're not going to be consistent. The boxing right is not going to be. It's boxing hurting boxing. It's not these one-off influencer events, because what happens? Tyson Fury arguably loses to Francis Ngannou, but guess what? He still ends up being in big fights with Alexander Usyk. Anthony Joshua comes out and knocks Francis Ngannou out in like 30 seconds, and it's all over the place. That didn't hurt boxing. We thought it was going to hurt, but it didn't hurt boxing. What's hurting boxing is the fights that we want to see not happening. That's what's hurting boxing. I don't think if Canelo fights Jake Paul in May, it's going to hurt boxing. I don't think that's what it is.
No. I'm not saying. Look, don't get me wrong. I'm not here to say that. Oh, that's the end of the sport. Doomsday scenario. That's it. Wrap up the sport. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's like, I'm not using the word bad. I'm using the word embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
It's embarrassing that the star of this sport is going to need Jake Paul to have a big event.
Well, what you're not taking into account, though, is Jake Paul is one of the stars of the sport.
I mean, but he's not like legitimate like that, is what I'm saying.
Who he's fighting real boxing events, right? So this is the thing. Is Jake Paul one of the top 5 recognized boxers in America?
He is, unfortunately.
Is Bud Crawford? No, he's not.
In America,
Benavidez? No, he's not.
I don't think Crawford is. Kendrick Lamar, jokes aside, right? I think you are underestimating how big of an event Crawford Canelo will be. I think you're drastically underestimating that.
Well, they're going to put
it because any fight when two guys fight, right? We don't add, we multiply, Alex. All right? I've said that for years. We don't add, we multiply. The numbers Canelo does and what Crawford does, we multiply them. We don't add them, right? Which is why, like, the fight itself is going to sell. Like the ingredient on Canelo's the pizza. The ingredient that he puts on the pizza is what sells the fights, right? He gave us anchovies last September, and people still showed up and kicked the UFC out of Vegas. They're not going to compete with Canelo. They're not going to compete with Canelo, Alex. Dana tapped out. He said, we didn't win this one. You could say the numbers are real. You could say whatever you want. The UFC tapped out. As long as Canelo's around, maybe they'll be back when Canelo's gone, right? But as of right now, they don't want to compete with Canelo because they don't feel like they maximize the revenue by competing with him, right? So you're underestimating. He sold anchovies, and we had a sea of people at the weigh-in. He sold anchovies with this pizza, and T-Mobile Arena still had a respectable gate. Even if you don't believe the numbers they put out, I'm sure it was still 14, 15 million, right? So my point is, we don't need to be doing this, circus, because that's what it is. It's a circus.
But do you? No,
you don't. You don't need to do it. Never in boxing history as a boxer, especially if they're the face of the sport, had to do a circus act in order to attract people to his events.
Mayweather did.
But Mayweather was already de facto retired. He wasn't holding any of the belts. He hadn't fought in 2 years.
It was official. It was an official fight. This is the thing. These now
he was retired though.
This is a business.
But here's the thing. But this is an important note, Alex. Mayweather was asked about fighting the other welterweights, and at least as much as I don't like Mayweather, he was honest, and he said, "Look, I'm done fighting real fighters." Is what he said. He said, "I'm not fighting those young guys anymore. I'm not fighting those guys. I'm 40 years old. I'm done."
And the difference is Canelo saying he wants to fight 5 more years, and for that, if that's the case, then do this fight.
And he has 3 of the sanctioned belts.
No, I understand. I agree with all that. What I'm telling you is, if we look at this from a business sense, right? And I'll take a different angle than where people think I'm going with this. You look at all the players in the peripheral when it comes to Canelo business, right? What was my issue with the Berlanga fight?
Oh, God.
Typical Chicano hating on the gringo. And I'm not hating on Jake Paul, by the way. Do whatever you do. But this is what I'm saying.
Shout out to the rich Honduran, MAGA baby, typical Chicano hating on the gringo. Jake Paul, build the wall. All right. Go ahead.
Shout out to Drew. What bothered me about the Berlanga fight? It was that it was on pay-per-view, right? It's at Vegas. Like, you're treating this like a big pay-per-view event when it's not, right? It doesn't. I didn't have a problem with Berlanga on the surface because top 10, whatever you want to do, right?
A fight we criticized, though, right?
And we criticized it. But my issue more was with the pay-per-view and how they pitched it. Mexico versus Puerto Rico, right? Whatever. So what that showed me, though, was Canelo, he's not going to deviate. He's not at this point in his career, and he said this. And this is why I tell people they need to be realistic about this. Canelo has said he's tired of carrying the sport in and around his weight class, and other guys need to pick up the slack. And he said, without saying, I'm going to take the easier fights and keep the same money, or continue to pay me at this point in my career. I'm simply worried about money. He said it without saying it. I'm not worried about legacy. I'm worried about the money, right? So what I'm saying is he's not taking a pay cut. And PBC's coming back to him and saying, if William Skull's asking for $8 million, if Christian and Billy is out there taking a break from eating maple syrup up in Canada and he's demanding $5 million or whatever, this is unrealistic with you, and we got to pay you 30, 40 million. We can't make
if PBC can't pay it, then the Saudis will pay it, or the Zone will pay it, or Eddie will pay it.
Will PBC allow that in May? Maybe they won't. Maybe they will.
Well,
What I'm saying is they're trying
they
to
bent the knee and let a Golden Boy fighter come over and fight him last night.
D-Stop, as boxing fans, we'd rather see the William Skull fight than the and Billy fight, right? But in reality, nobody knows these guys.
Which is a fight, by the way, it's still not a fight I want to see, but at least it's someone who's in the top 10.
But that's your options, is what I'm telling you. That's the options Canelo's giving you as a boxing fan. And it's up to you at that point to say, will I support this or not? Do what you want with that. All I'm saying is that's your options if we're hearing this correctly. So none of us, dude, Undisputed has become like the ice bucket challenge. Like
Right.
everybody's doing it now, right? And nobody's really intrigued by the angle of two-time Undisputed at 168. They're just not. Why does even William Skull have a belt, right? So that's not a thing anymore. It's out in 2025. People want to see something bigger than William Skull and Christian and Billy. And I'm telling you, what's your other option that Canelo's giving you?
I just don't. I think what's going on here is that this is how I feel about it. Like, I get everybody's point. I get that they want this big extravaganza every time Canelo fights. They want this big glamorous event, and
have to because of the money involved. They have to have it.
Yeah, I get it, but like at the same time, like
there is no room for tune-ups these days.
Okay, but at the same time, then why don't we do the Benavidez fight?
Exactly. I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Why not just do that?
I mean, my God, there's nobody. If only there was an opponent that there was demand for in the division for Canelo fight. Man, I guess we're gonna have to do Jake Paul.
And that's where people are gonna have to decide. I've said it over and over and over again. And that's when people are gonna have to look in the mirror and decide what they want to do with this, because I've said Canelo did not have help building his base. He built it on his own organically. He didn't have help from he built it on his own organically throughout his career by fighting the fights. And now he's taking this pivot to where Benavidez isn't on the table. Bud Crawford, we're going to wait till September to do that one, right? So I'm not taking pay cuts. I'm not going to do like Oscar De La Hoya and fight 2-pound Forbes and give away $5 tickets and put it on HBO Championship Boxing. I'm not going to do that. I'm not doing those moves. You're going to have to pay me 30, 40 million. You're going to have to pay 80 plus tax to access these fights. And you're going to have to decide as a consumer, do you want to stick around and support that? That's on you. I'm not worried about what anybody does.
I hear
I'm not
you.
judging anybody.
Shout out to Drew once again with the super chat. Thanks for the support. It says, will you speak on the emergency meeting Aram and the sanctioning body said this TKO boxing is coming and nothing Canelo Ortiz can do about it away. Look, if TKO boxing is coming and it gives us all great fights, I'm not complaining at all. Like, it is what it is. I am tired of all these diva boxers out here talking about what they deserve when they can't attract flies to shit or bees to honey. All right? A lot of these fights will walk around with a handful of honey and they will not attract bees to it. Right? But they're over here demanding things, right? So make no mistake about it, I don't have an issue at all with something that gives me boxing fights I want to see, right? Speaking of fights, I just don't. Jake Paul versus Canelo is not a fight. All right, that's number one. Can we agree on that?
Yeah.
It's not a fight. It's a waste of time. I don't even think it's gonna happen, bro. I think Jake Paul knows the reality and he knows the show's over if he gets in the ring with Canelo.
It's a waste of time to us. But
Jake Paul, regardless of what they pay him in this fight, will he take that money for the show to be over?
Jake Paul will do whatever for the money.
But he can make money in other ways.
The only two fights my wife has ever asked me about since I've known her 13 years is Mayweather Pacquiao. Actually 3, Mayweather McGregor. And the third one was Jake Paul, Mike Tyson. And everybody I know by Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. Everybody I know. My wife watched it. Netflix is buffering. She's on her phone panicking because it's buffering on the TV. That's how invested she was in it. And when I mentioned we were out at the restaurant Monday night that Jake Paul might fight Canelo Alvarez, guess what? She said, I want to watch it. If I say Canelo Alvarez is going to fight William Skull,
Ladies, Calix has just
about?
admitted he wants to fight. You just admitted you want to fight.
I do not want the. I don't
Yeah,
like watching
it's
boxing with
a
my wife.
happy wife, happy life. You want the fight.
I don't like watching sports with my wife. She's asking me questions. How many points is a touchdown? I don't look forward to the Super Bowl. I'm not one of those. I look forward to the food at the Super Bowl.
Now we got to the bottom.
I don't like watching sports with.
We got to the bottom of it. Now we know why Calix wants this fight. Like now we know. Like it's
one
all
of
good,
my biggest pet peeves is watching sports with casual fans. I hate doing it. So I'm not for the circus. All I'm telling you is it's realistic that it could happen, if not in May in 2026, because, and I'm just throwing out a scenario in which it's very possible for May because of PBC needs their money. Turkey Al-Sheikh does not want a tough fight in May that could ruin the September fight. Canelo likes money. So I'm just saying.
The Raiders, I forget the name of the stadium, by the way. You know what's the name again? The Raiders Stadium?
Allegiant Stadium.
Allegiant Stadium. Right. Well, it's actually a good name, by the way. Usually I hate like the sponsor name, but that's a good name. That's going to be sold out. Canelo Crawford, if they do that fight, it's going to sell out.
65.
He sold out the Cowboy Stadium, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to sell out. I'm going to tell you that right now. Right.
The good thing about events like that.
No, don't get me wrong. Like there's probably going to be like 4 empty seats somewhere. Yeah. Right. And then Drew's going to be there. He's going to take pictures of it. He's going to put it on Twitter.
Drew and Chris are going to be like,
oh, look, they did it.
One little section of 20 seats is curtained off. Not an official sellout. Right.
Checkmate, D-Style.
Checkmate. Told you, D-Style. Told you he's a bum. But no, you're right. You're right. I don't know what the pay-per-view, but yeah, the good thing about that is I love seeing the fights where you get 3 generations of boxing fans in there. You see the grandpa with the dad, with the kid, and those type of fights, you have affordable tickets in there. So that's good. That is.
Do you think that if Canelo goes out there, it's annihilates Jake Paul, right? Like, and we know he's gonna win, but I'm talking like he just goes out there round 1, boom, 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 batters them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is that gonna help Canelo's star power? Like, you think he's gonna gain a lot of fans?
Yes, I do.
You really think people are gonna be like, "Oh my God, it beat Jake Paul"? Wow, they're gonna be amazed with what
I'm telling you that there are people out there who don't know any better. Do you know how many people bet money on Conor McGregor to beat Floyd Mayweather? Do you know how close the odds were?
I won a lot of money. Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm saying is the casual public don't underestimate their ability to not know what they're looking at. And they're going to see Canelo destroy Jake Paul, and they may be interested now in the fight.
Chris already has it on copy paste, like about Canelo, bro. Like he has copy paste. He goes to Twitter, copy paste.
He timed the tweet for September. He timed it already.
Yeah, it's already ready to go, bro. But my thing, look, obviously, I will say this: they got to price it right. Like if they want $1,000 for nosebleeds, and maybe it's not going to sell out. But
no, they won't. They won't. They'll be affordable. They'll be affordable.
That's the point of it being in the stadium. So, and it's you know, now everything's history. So they're making history, you know, because it's going to be in that stadium, the first one ever. So, I've been calling for a fight in that stadium forever. So I'm glad that'll happen if the reports are true. It's true,
that's
right?
One of the best. That's the best stadium I've ever been in personally. For a football game. I don't know what it would look like for boxing, but it's a very comfortable stadium. A lot of room, no bad seats for a football game. Very comfortable stadium. A lot of bars, a lot of just places that you could go into that fight. And if you don't want to sit at your seat, you can go sit at a bar and watch it on the TVs in the stadium. It's that type of stadium where you can be a part of the atmosphere and still enjoy the fight.
The best part about it being a stadium, right? At least most of the seats, we don't have to worry about the scalpers like Chris. Like, you know what I mean? I got $1,000 tickets for only $5. It ain't selling. Like, you know, but whatever he says. But anyway, last
Jake
thing.
Paul. Look, if this fight's at Allegiant Stadium, I wonder where the Jake Paul fight would be. Dallas. Wonder where that would be.
Probably T-Mobile. They'll just do it at T-Mobile.
That's a stadium fight too.
I mean,
imagine the intrigue behind that too. Just throwing more on top here. Imagine the intrigue of having 2 stadium fights in 1 year.
hell, what about the Mercedes Dome, or like, what about I guess it could be a lot of places. Yeah,
that's the beauty of that fight. It can go anywhere.
Man, maybe they could do it right here at the Sun Bowl, El Paso. You know what I mean?
I just sold you on the fight. I sold you on the fight.
The MGM Grand, bro. You know they're gonna do it at the Foxwoods. Isn't that where all the big fights go?
No, that needs to go to the Mohegan Sun. Or you know where it needs to go? Caribe Royale.
Caribe Royale. There you go.
In sunny Orlando, Florida.
Or what about in Minnesota at an armory?
Yes.
Just comp the tickets. That's where you do real events.
Put it there.
But you're definitely 100% behind this fight. Like I feel like you have like stock in this fight or something. You know
I wish I did. Believe me, I wish I did.
So at least the Raiders are getting some type of win because they're not going to get a win for a while as long as Mahomes around. So
I'm just telling you right now, you're underestimating how huge Canelo versus Jake Paul would be.
No, I know it's going to be big. But it's going to be embarrassing. That's all I'm saying. But, it is what it is. With that said, one last thing. Your guy, Regis Prograis, or whatever they call him, he got injured. So what do you think? Well, what's up? Is he done?
Sometimes, you hear about you don't choose your career. If you're special, you don't choose your career chooses you. Well, also, the retirement gods can yell so loud that it's evident to everybody and it's deafening. And that's the case for Regis Prograis right now. Is the retirement gods have been calling him for a while. He's clearly not there. The legs aren't there anymore. And I think they're on this mission to be whatever three-time titleist or whatever they're trying to do. And it's just not there. It's not there. And I didn't like the matchup for him anyway. So he may have saved himself another loss. But, when you're getting injured and when you are fighting, you're losing, I think the retirement gods are calling. And from what I see and from what I hear from people locally, he's doing well financially, doing very well financially.
That's good.
So good investment. So maybe it's time to step away.
Jesus Pardo, I should say. Canelo versus Paul, the day the earth stands still.
That's what I'm saying. He knows how huge it is. He knows how big it is.
Well, Regis Prograis was talking like a what's Fetz called him that. That was a day that that after the fight with he was talking to a retired fighter after the last fight with Catterall. You know what I mean? It just had retired vibes. Did you see that little promo they did about Catterall? Like they decided to just have fun with it about how boring he is.
Yeah, that's good.
You think it's a good move? You might as well just.
I do. I always think that self-deprecating humor is good, and I think that's good. But I also think that he's actually gotten a little more entertaining his past couple of fights.
Self-deprecating humor is good.
It is.
That's what Calix always attacks Cruz because he's self-deprecating himself by doing it. You know what I mean?
I have to do it because Cruz refuses to do it himself. He's still walking around like a pit bull, and he's not a pit bull.
Alti's asking if Ryan's back later. I have not heard. Have you heard anything, Alex?
I don't.
No, right?
I haven't heard.
There's also a rumor. I don't know how true this is, that Raleigh Romero slept with Ryan Garcia's baby mama, and there's screenshots of Ryan crying to his baby mama, asking her, hey, anybody but him. They're very angry about it. That's what.
By the way, the build-up for that fight is going to be very funny.
Do you think those screenshots come out in the build-up to that fight?
Oh yeah, a lot of stuff's gonna come out, and Raleigh's gonna roll off that short bus again, and just he's gonna that's gonna be great.
Like Ryan was just upset. He basically told her, "You could have fucked anybody but him." You know what I mean? And he just didn't like it. But I would not be shocked if that comes up.
That
like Roner Malignaggi style. Just advice to Ryan, please. don't do the. She's just my side piece. Don't do that.
Yeah, that was embarrassing. But
don't brag about thinking my side piece.
Riley has some in common with Paulie in that he talks his way into fights, but Paulie had a legitimate title early on. He did have some good performances against good fighters. The curious case of Rolando Romero is, he was 2 fights removed from a gift decision against Marinez. Parlays that into a Tank Davis fight that's, for whatever reason, people thought was going to be a decent fight, and it wasn't. And then he parlays that loss into, because it's part of the Tank Davis theorem, right? Is you fail up when you fight Tank Davis. And he failed up and fought an 87-year-old for a title that was basically given to him by a referee and was losing that fight. Yeah. And then he parlays that into a loss to Issac Cruz. And then he's going to parlay his loss against 4'11", walking around with a collar, Issac Cruz, to a fight with one of the biggest fighters in the sport, Ryan Garcia. It's amazing.
You're not going to give him credit for his phantom punches against the 94-year-old?
No. My poor guy Ismael, but also he had it, man.
Barroso's just 96 years old. That's all.
He had it. He rolled off the set of Apocalypto, and he had that victory, and it just didn't. It was robbed from him. But man, the boxing gods are certainly looking out for Rolando Romero, and he's going to talk people into being interested about this fight. But one thing I'll tell you about that card real quick is I think it's a showcase card at the top. I think it's showcased for Ryan to be in a big build-up and win a fight convincingly, and the same thing with Haney against Ramirez. I think Ramirez at this point in his career does not match up well with Haney.
I'll answer one more question and we're going to wrap this one up. It's been a great show. Alti is asking, why is Golden Boy not promoting that fight? It's in Ring Magazine instead of Golden Boy. The reason for that, because it's basically a Riyadh season type of card. It's done by Turkey. The Saudis are going to fork up the money, and Oscar's not stupid. So he's going to be like,
and I'm sure Oscar's getting money off the top.
Sure.
He's going to get his margin, and he's going to get an easy margin. Easy margin.
It's like I don't think. Do you think he knew what clapback meant to begin with, or
I don't know? But I find it ballsy that he did that last one with his face, like his face. His face looked like me when I don't know if you ever did like a flush niacin. My face just gets beat red, but his face looked like that with like lines. He got like chemical stuff going on. He still did it. Like, take a break, bro. Do that next Thursday. Let your face fill up.
He could have put on one of those Mexican luchador masks or something. You know what I mean? I don't know, do something. Right, but anyway, guys, we're gonna wrap this one. I appreciate everyone that tuned in. If we have time, we could do a show tomorrow. Appreciate it. This is D-Style Boxing. We're out. Peace.
God bless. Peace.